Hello everyone and welcome to 2D Animation and Interactivity. My name is David Luke. I am your instructor. This should be the first video you're watching. It's going to be called Animate Basics. It's going to be sort of a general overview of the interface and sort of how Animate works. A word about Animate, and I put this in somewhere in the syllabus or on the first week's information. Animate recently changed from from Flash to Animate. Pardon me if I say Flash here and there. When I say Flash, I mean Animate. It's just a name change. The software is fairly similar to what it has been over the years, but a few things have changed, and whether you sort of see that or know that, if you've worked with Flash before, kind of doesn't matter because we'll be working with this new piece of software called Animate CC. So, the first thing is to make sure you have Animate CC. That was sort of the requirement. We sort of bought ourselves some times this week with the introductions and a few other things you had to do this week. But today you're going to hopefully be watching 3 videos, 3 or 4 depending on how long they take me. And again, this one is just sort of an introduction to the interface and sort of how this piece of software works. I'm not going to go into everything because we're obviously going to have many exercises that we do over the semester, but just sort of the overview of how this works. Let's take a look at sort of how it is laid out. This is what's called a locked interface, and I'm sort of moving this around. That's a good thing. Adobe has recently gone to locked interfaces where windows aren't really necessarily separate. Everything is sort of moving as one unit. So this is how I'm going to instruct. If you look up here on the top right, you'll see this drop-down menu, and you'll see all these different ways to sort of see Animate CC. I'm going to be teaching in Classic because I think it's the most simple. Occasionally we'll go into some windows that are going to take up some space over here, and that's all right. But Classic is pretty minimal, and that's what I'm going to be instructing in. The only thing that will come into play occasionally, and this really has to do with the video recording software that I'm using, is occasionally I'll have to open up the screen a little bit and show you something that is off screen, and that's just if anything, it's awkward, and again, it's just a product of the screen capturing software I use to do these videos. But for the most part, we can see everything we need to see right here. Over here we have our toolbox. The first tool that you have is the selection tool. We're going to be using that in the later exercises today. We'll go through these tools as needed. A lot of these are drawing tools, selection tools, eraser tools, moving tools, zooming tools, and these sort of help us move around the sort of stage here, or what I'll sort of refer to as the stage. Now, up here we have our timeline. You're going to see this red playback head, and right now it can't move because we haven't done anything. You'll see the actual sort of time here, and this is sort of measured in frames or keyframes. Each of these numbers, 5, 10, those represent frames. Okay. Later we're going to talk about how many frames per second are in a Flash, or sorry, there I am again, Animate Movie, and how you can adjust things from moving from a slow speed to a much faster speed, etc. Now, over here on the right, you have 2 tabs. One is called the Properties and one is called the Library. The Library are where our symbols are going to live, and in your first exercise where you actually make something move, you're going to have some symbols over here. We also have the Properties tab. The Properties tab sort of allows us to sort of change things that are happening over here inside Animate. Okay. That's sort of the basic layout. One thing to sort of note about Animate is that it's what's called a vector-based program. You'll see that I can sort of draw something, move it around quite easily. I can sort of get rid of areas and put things back where they were, and it's different from something like Photoshop, which is a more pixel or what's called raster-based program. The fact that we can sort of draw things and enlarge things is a good thing. It allows us to sort of scale things, and what this program is made for, animate things. It's different than something like Photoshop, which can do some minor animation, but can't be enlarged because sort of there's really only so many pixels in an image. Okay. Couple other things to take a look at. Right here we have our scene sort of drop-down menu, and this is going to allow us to sort of move between scenes. Later in the semester, we're going to sort of add scenes to your small movies. It's going to be an easy way to organize movies. Here you have a drop-down menu sort of referring to your symbols. Here we can sort of zoom in and out. I'll generally be speaking sort of at 100% here. Okay. Note that you can sort of use what's called the artboard, or sort of this outer space, this sort of gray area, and I'm going to zoom out. And in Animate, it's very important that we actually do use this space. If we think about something coming in off of stage left and sort of moving off stage right, we need to use this space over here. So again, I'm comparing this to Photoshop, where generally speaking, you can't use these outer sort of areas. In Flash or in Animate, we can. That's about it for Flash Basics. Again, I just wanted to do a short video that allowed us to sort of see, without really doing anything, what this sort of view, and again I'm working in Classic, looks like. In your coming videos, you're going to do two things. One is what's called a motion tween, and I'll explain what that is when we get to that video. And the other one is called a shape tween. These are very, very basic exercises, things we have to sort of get down before we move on to other exercises and projects. Note that for most exercises and projects, especially at the beginning of the semester, I'll be doing these videos. I will also post step-by-step directions on how to do these. Generally speaking, I follow my own step-by-step when I do these Animate exercises, and not because I don't know how to do them, but rather I want to sort of be reading exactly what you're reading. So you'll hear me sort of refer to, okay, step 11, go to the selection tool, and I'll be sort of referring to that as I do my videos. I found that students find both helpful. Later in the semester, when I think most people have a grasp of the sort of basics of doing something, I might just post something as a step-by-step text file. So be looking for the video files for these exercises and be looking for the step-by-steps. Any questions, email me. At this point, you should probably go on to the first Making a Motion Tween video, and I'll see you there.